Yeah.
Hi, this is Let's Discuss a paper right after reading it. And we selected a paper 2 hours ago and started reading it. Then we meet up again to discuss now. Firstly, we will introduce ourselves. Please, Yota.
Hi, my name is Yota Kawashima. I'm a research assistant at ATL and Monash University.
Thank you. And I'm Ryoichi Watanabe at Kyoto University, Japan, and a PhD student. So firstly, I will introduce today's paper. Our title is that exploring the relationship between perceived action, outcome distance, and agency. Evidence from temporal binding, written by Michelle Jenkins and Sarkovinder Obihi, and in Conscious and Cognition. Right, 2021, volume 94. Then I will introduce the summary. I summarize this briefly. And yes, in this study, the authors focus or examine the sense of agency and the distance of the spatial distance. And the sense of agency is like the sense of feeling or sense that I do something, and perceived by the relationship between intentional actions and their consequent effects or reasons, such as playing a piano. When I push the key and the sound will be happened. This means the intentional action and their consequent effect. Then, and there are some measurement for sense of agency. For especially for implicit measurement is like the temporal binding paradigm, right? Or it means the intentional action, the time between the intentional action and the causation or like the affected reasons, the duration time. And for example, if we have the sense of agency more stronger, the duration time between our action and the feedback is less than the real time. And if the sense of agency is not shorter, feel shorter when the duration time is more longer, we feel. So in this paradigm, we can interpret that the duration time or temporal binding is less, means that we have the sense of agency. And in this paradigm, the integration or the time between the intentional action and the feedback is important, but there is no studies for the spatial duration between the action and the feedback. So in this study, the authors focus the sense of agency and the binding. And bindings, for the bindings, the authors use the spatial distance for the, and also the time distance in this study. So in this study, they also examine the relationship between the spatial distance and the time distance and the relationship between the self or the self sense of agency and the distance binding. Then I introduce the method or the task in this study. And in this study, the authors set the a little bit complicated, but 1, 2, 3, 3, and 4. I think 4 independent factors. The one is the intentional factor. In this study, the author manipulates the intention. One is the intentional condition. Is the when after the participant pushes the button, the task started. This is the intentional condition, and the control condition. The participant didn't push the button. The sound is happened. It's regardless of the participant intention. The sound happened, then the task started. So intentionally push the button or the sound happened. This is intentional condition manipulation, and then there are also the temporal temporal manipulation. In this study, for example, the task after the task started in 200 milliseconds, the target stimuli happened, or 500 milliseconds then happened, or 800 milliseconds happened. So three temporal manipulation or conditions there. Then, and also in this study, the authors manipulate the spatial distance. In this study, for example, so the stimulus is near or far, but it is difficult to set this situation. So the authors use the shade in this task. How to say, the duration between the stimulus and shade is short, means that the stimulus is near to us, but the duration between the stimulus and the shade is long. This stimulus is far from us for the right, yes. So the distance distance migration. And then finally, the task backward is different between two conditions. One is the two-dimensional backward, yes, and the other one is the 3D backward. So in the 3D backward, we can see the stimulus in the 3D vision, but in the two-dimensional background, we see like the images something. I think this is also the control condition. So to summarize, in this study's task, one intention manipulation, and then the temporal duration manipulation, and the spatial distance manipulation, and then the two-dimensional or three-dimensional manipulation is effective. And the participant responds the time duration between the task and the target stimuli happen. So if the time duration was 200, the participant responds 200, it's correctly. But if the participant subjectively miss the time. So the correct time is 200 milliseconds, but the participant responds the 500 or the shorter for 100 or something. So the participant time response, participant response about the duration time was the dependent factor in this study, dependent variable in this study. So the authors are analyzed these. And this result showed that briefly, I will briefly show the result. And the result shows that in the two-dimensional condition, participant respond more long time in the far condition than the near condition. Also, for in the three-dimensional condition, and I think this three-dimensional condition is the authors wanted to focus on. And this result shows that in the three-dimensional condition, the baseline condition means the participant didn't push the button, so the sound what happened and task started. There's no difference between the near condition and the far condition, but in the action condition means that after the pushing by participants, the task started. The response about the duration time is more longer in the far condition than in the near condition. So this research suggesting that the perceptual experience of physical distance, near or far, influence the sense of urgency. So the bounding is more longer in the far condition. So means the sense of urgency over the outcome. I think this result is the main result in this study. So the spatial distance is also affect our sense of urgency in the three-dimensional condition, like the real condition. But for the 2D condition, in the 2D condition, what in this baseline or intentional condition is also happened the effect of the spatial duration effect. This is my briefly summarized in this of this study, and please add something, Yota.
So first, as you mentioned, this paper or the result is a bit difficult to interpret because the experiment has many conditions or factors, like 4 factors. So intention manipulation, and also the temporal manipulation, and the distance manipulation, and the feeling of distance, or the 3D versus 2D manipulation. But the 4 different manipulation in one experiment. right? And so the author's prediction, I think, is clear. I mean, the introduction of this paper was clear to me, and they expected that the sense of agency, or if the sense of agency is weaker for an outcome, then it feels more distant in terms of the temporal distance. I mean, if participant feel that the participant action caused an outcome, or then it should feel closer interval between the action and the outcome of the actions. And this part is clear, but the result does not seem to clearly match with the prediction. So I'm a bit confusing for how to interpret this result. But in this paper, there is only one figure in the result figure. So I think so my question is that which condition is the most strong in terms of the sense of agency? So first, of course, the task is action task, where participants were asked to press a button. Then it should induce higher sense of agency. So the action task is the one, rather than the baseline task. So without button press task. And that's the intention manipulation part. And the next thing is that the distance manipulation, right? And it should only happen in 3D conditions, because in the 2D condition, flat condition in the paper does not makes the feeling of distance in the stimulus, because it just the red circle in the center and the rectangle, some patterns of rectangle around the red circle. So in terms of the sense of agency, the 3D condition is the one which generate the sense of agency stronger. And within 3D conditions, what we need to consider is, the next thing is that the shade stuff, right? If the shade is far from the red circle, then it infers that the red circle is far from participant, which means that which reduce the sense of agency. So if the shade is close to the red circle, then that's cause or to generate the strongest sense of agency. And the temporal stuff, so in this paper, they presented the red circle after button press with different delays, 200 millisecond, 500 millisecond, and 800 millisecond. And my interpretation is that if the time duration is wrong, then a participant start to lose the sense of agency. Because let's say if you push up, or this is my, interpretation, but let's say if I, push the button of my laptop, and if it turns up or it starts the PC immediately, then I feel that I started the PC, or my action caused the turn off of the PC. But let's say if I push the button and wait for, let's say, 1 day, and then it turned on, then it means, or I myself feel that I push the button, but it does not cause the startup of the PC. It just, start up by itself. So 200 millisecond condition is the one that cause or induce the most strongest sense of agency, right? Or what do you think? So in that case, so in the figure 2 where the author presented the paper, and blue bar on the rightmost should indicate the shorter interval. And right, and we can compare this, the blue bar with different bar in terms or from different perspective. Let's say if you want to compare the distance manipulated by the shade location, you need to compare the blue bar and the orange bar next to the or the right next to the blue bar. So the action condition, 3D condition, but the far from participant. And yes, that is supported, or the blue bar is shorter than the orange bar, the rightmost. So this result suggests that well, the distance may affect the feeling of the time duration, right?
Yes.
And next, if you want to, this is one comparison. And another comparison is that, again, first we consider the case which, or the condition which induce the strongest sense of agency. So action task, 3D condition, and the shade, and the shorter time duration. With the baseline task, which does not require a participant to press the button, and which I think correspond to the second and bar, in blue from the rightmost. So 3D condition, baseline task, and near in terms of the distance. So the shade is close to the red line. And if we compare these two, then the first condition, the action task 1, indicate the shorter time interval. So which means that, okay, so the sense of agency or the button press cause some or makes participant to have a sense of agency, and that results, the difference between the. Yeah, and the comparisons are only them. It's easy or kind of understandable or interpretable, but yeah, so first thing I could not understand is that, or in the discussion part, the author mentions or clearly says that they did not expect, but they found that even in the flat condition, 2D condition, they found the difference of estimated interval of time duration between the far and close condition. Here, I mean the far, the distance between the red circle and the shade. And in the flat condition, this is not the illusion path or stimulus, right? In the flat condition, the participant were presented just a flat images of stimulus, which does not cause the the illusion of distance. So the distance between the red circle and shade, or just in this case just the red black line, should not cause any differences. But in this the result says that there is a difference. And I don't know how we can interpret this. And the discussion, the author mentions that the location of black line is somehow influence or affect the estimation of interval, which is not related, or which is nothing to do with the perception of the distance from participant to the object, but just the distance on the display between red circle and black line somehow cause the difference. So longer distance between red circle and black line induce the longer estimate of interval for some reason, probably due to some low level processing, or I don't know. But that part I can't understand why. But yeah, and also I think you mentioned, but in some time duration condition again, and the author used 3 different delay condition: 200 millisecond, 5 millisecond, 500 millisecond, and 800 millisecond, and they observed the significant difference only for a specific time duration, right? And was it the 200 millisecond or 500 millisecond? The reason why I ask this is that probably if the delay is too long, then participants start to feel the sense of agency. Again, the result of my PC like turn on, if it's immediate, then I can tell that, oh, I turn on this PC or laptop. But let's say if it's, I don't know, 5 minutes later, or 10 minutes later, 1 hour, or 1 day, or 1 year, I'm sure that I will lose the sense of agency, right? So my question is that how long we can keep, or the human can keep, the sense of agency. And if it's, let's say, within 200 milliseconds, or less than 5 milliseconds, let's say, we can say that if we use 5 milliseconds and the time duration condition, it already cause or makes participant to lose the sense of agency because the delay is too long. So, but my question was that, so which time duration condition did the author find a difference?
I see. Yes. But I think, in this the figure 2, the authors integrated
yes
time scale. So
we can't compare that. So I checked the result part,
Yeah.
and they compared or mentioned the statistical significance for each time, delay condition.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think so.
Yes, there also and interaction between the time duration and the other factors are significant if the so the time duration effect is happen. But I missed this information, or
I'm sure that they well, I mean the author show the result, but there are too many comparison.
Yeah.
Because of the number of conditions, it's a bit difficult to follow.
Yeah.
Within 2 hours, or I mean, while I was reading this paper, within 2 hours. But according to my note, says that when comparing the far trials and near trials in terms of the distance between the red circle and the shade, and the authors find the significant difference in 200 milliseconds and 5 milliseconds, but not for 800 milliseconds, and that's first. And the other, and also they found that they estimate, or they found or when they compare the baseline task and action task, they found the authors found the significant difference only in 200 milliseconds, not for 500 milliseconds and 800 milliseconds.
Yeah.
Or probably my note is wrong, but again, I think my interpretation kind of makes sense. So the threshold, the temporal threshold for participant to have sense of agency is longer than 200 milliseconds, but shorter than 500 milliseconds. Do you agree with this? Because again, my example laptop, turn on stuff. If the delay is too long, then participants start to lose the sense of agency.
Yeah.
And probably 500 milliseconds is a bit too long.
Yes, and I find these states in this paper below of the discussion part. So the last paragraph of the result and last one, and below, and in the two-dimensional flat condition, the 500 milliseconds delay is significant difference, and the other was not. However, the 3D conditions, the 200 millisecond is significant effect, and the other time duration is not.
But I don't know. Just but the
And yes, and I agree with your question, your comment. The duration time. So your example is so wrong 1 day, but this is not just. I think there is no sense of urgency, but normally for the other type of the study about the sense of agency, like the rubber hand illusion or something, or normally about 300 milliseconds is the threshold for the sense of agency or something.
So you mean that in the case of rubber hand illusions,
Yes, right.
like
Yeah.
flickering for 300 milliseconds makes participant to feel that the rubber hand is subject rubber hand. But if you continue doing it, or the examiner keep doing it longer than 300 milliseconds, then start to feel or notice that, oh, this is not my hand.
Yes.
Okay. So if you so the 300 milliseconds is the okay. So if that threshold can be applied in this study, or just generalizable to any condition, then my interpretation kind of makes sense, because 300 milliseconds is shorter than 500 milliseconds, but longer than 200 milliseconds.
Yes. So I think the authors decided to use this time scale 200 to 500, and for the completely control condition, where 800 milliseconds they also use, I think.
Okay. But I'm not sure whether the 300 millisecond time threshold is generalizable for any condition, because if my action caused something or some outcome in some place far from my locations, then I easily imagine that it will take longer time to my action make some differences in far more, locations. But if it's close to my body, then I expect that it should happen immediately. And in the case of rubber hand, illusions, it's about your body, so it should be shorter in terms of the temporal threshold, or but I mean the threshold for the sense of agency. And so probably in this case, the distance between participant and the display can be one important factor. And also, in this study, they use the illusion so that participant feel some distance.
Yes.
But we can't, or is it possible to estimate how long it will be?
I see. So how? Yes.
Illusion.
Yes. So how about use VR environment or something?
Yes, or just in the physical.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether it's possible or not, but like, let's say I push some button and then some red circle appears in space. Let's say 1 kilometer, but like, let's say just 1 meter from my body. And the distance can be very important information for the threshold.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. So that is also like a reason why I feel it's a bit difficult to interpret this, result, because the threshold can be, different for different, the distance.
Yes. Yeah, but I think this point is so important and interesting. Normally, normally like the rubber hand illusion or something, the sense of agency for our body is near for us, near from us. So the time something, example, the 300 millisecond is the threshold of the in the near condition, but the other condition, right? But but this is not this is not happen in real situation. My hand is far from the other space, but if so, that the threshold time is more shorter than the near condition.
You mean longer? No? If it's far from your body direction,
yes,
the
longer.
threshold should be longer.
But I think so. So we have two consideration. We have to think two considerations. One is yes, as you said, the duration. How to say the long distance means long time. This event will be happen. So this means a long time is needed, but the synchronization time mean like the for the rubber hand illusions threshold 300 milliseconds is for the time we can feel the synchronization time. So not the happen time. Okay. So the same time is most best for the synchronization time. And more than about 300 milliseconds, the synchronization is broken. So we cannot feel this rubber hand at my body. So I think the for synchronization time and the duration distance time is different, and this time perception is are needed. Makes sense? So in this study's point, to like the more near than sorry. So in this study, the authors think the time duration means the synchronization time, not the distance time. So long distance. Sorry, I was confused, and but I think two time scales we should think. So in this study, the long distance condition, the time is long, and near condition time is short. And just as you said, if the stimulus happened in the long distance, the time is more needed. But if the stimulus is happened near, the time is more shorter than the long far condition. So, and this is not so. This doesn't show the sense of agency. Just the relationship between distance and time.
Yeah, it's complicated, but I kind of yeah. Let me give me a second to think about it. But yeah, it's a I don't know. But anyhow, how, like, I have another, like a question, kind of question. So I started to feel like why the sense of agency affect the time estimations, like with so when I skimmed through this paper first time, it kind of makes sense to me, but now I don't feel why it should be. Probably, there are some studies already done about this relational mechanism, but I don't know why. But yes, now I remember some other review paper saying that the movement of your body influence the time perception. So with movement, you estimate shorter time, but without any body movement, you will estimate longer time duration or something. So that I think somehow related to this sense of agency, because the movement of your body is of course accompanied with the sense of agency. So I see. I don't know the mechanism why it should be, but I now remember that there's some study already says that that kind of movement, but probably related to the prediction.
Yes.
I see. Yeah, it still makes sense because you have already some kind of predictions. So it's a bit for the brain, it's easy to react to the stimulus, but without any previous expectation, the brain needs more or longer time to process that. Probably. I see. But
yes, I think so. Prediction and for simulation, something.
I see.
So, and I think in these studies, the causality is also set. The authors set because push the button and the stimulus happen. So I think it's different between the stimulus happen causality and the body action and the causality. Something in this study, push and the stimulus is happen. But if the something we push the button and the ball is rolling, and in the underfloor ball rolling and happen, for example, this is more embodiment or can predictable. This for agency and feedback something.
Okay, so I don't know whether this, or I came up with an idea. One idea. So you said that the expectation or prediction makes the estimation shorter. Which means that, like in this scenario or in this experiment, press the button. Somehow change the display, and the red circle will appear. And as participant, make a progress or just do trials over and over again. They will have a prediction or have a concrete prediction. So the estimation time can be shorter for the later trials. And another idea is that, let's say, pressing button, if the pressing button causes unexpected event, let's say turn off the PC or something, and then asks participant to estimate how long it took I mean the button press on the hand of the PC. And in this scenario, participant does not have any prior expectation prediction. So the estimation for the duration should be longer.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah, if there is some kind of this kind of experiment, now I can agree that doing this kind of stuff is generating some prediction, and that results in the shorter time estimation.
Yeah. Yes, I agree this idea, and I also like this study will be there as or so prediction and not expected and unexpected event cause affect how to time estimation, right? I think I remember I forget why I don't remember, but I think there is some study about this. Yeah, and this is I also this is so interesting, and I also wondering this estimation is shorter. The authors focus on the time estimation, but not the correctly, right? So if the time is shorter, the sense of urgency is high. Yeah, I understand this. But how about the correctly of the time perception? And so the time estimation is shorter means the sense of agency is high, or the time estimation is more correct means the sense of agency is also correctly or something.
So again, if the sense of agency is related to predictions.
Yeah, so the shorter time estimation is like the sense of agency illusion or something, time illusion, not the correctly one, right? And how about the time perception? If the time perception is correctly, what means this is not the sense of agency, or correctly we have the sense of agency?
I see. So one thing is that my guess is that if you keep doing the same thing without any feedback about the correctness, then the time estimation or the duration will be just getting shorter up until some points. But if you give a feedback for each, let's say, trial, saying that, oh, this time your estimation is within like 1 millisecond error or something, then you can update the predictions.
Yeah.
And in the end, you can have a correct model in your brain and make the correct time response. But in both case, if the prediction is somehow related to the sense of agency, or the prediction is the mechanism of the sense of agency, for example, if so, then we can say that in both cases, we can, measure sense of agency, but in a different direction. By the way, how long have you been talking about? Roughly, I think still 40
right?
minutes.
Yeah, I think 50 minutes. No.
Probably, but in the beginning,
Yeah, I see.
we had some trouble. So,
Mm.
but anyway, so yeah, this paper was interesting and give me some kind of opportunity to think about how to set up a new experiment or things like that. But another thing is that I think in this paper it mentions, but this does not come with yes, this didn't come with the neural recording.
Yeah.
So how this can be explained in terms of neural recordings, and I've already forgot what we have talked about in a few months ago, or probably much more before, but like the somehow kind of distance or similarity in the brain activity match with the time expectation or something.
Yeah, we did.
And if it's true, then this also should be explained in terms of neural recording. So the expectation or estimation of shorter duration should match with the more similar neural activity or something.
Yeah.
And I think in this paper they mentioned some manipulation of brain. Probably not, but I think not. Probably not. Anyway, I think we've already discussed quite a bit. Not only the question to this paper, but also like our own ideas.
Yeah.
So should we wrap up it here, or do you still have anything to talk?
Yeah, but yeah, I discussed what I want to discuss with you. So for me, okay.
Okay. So let's finish here, and I will pray. Okay, see you next week.
See you.